helmet's alright. Reach out and touch the sky. Boy, you with me, don't wait for nights. Going baptized, yes, spirit baptized. Going in and the helmet's alright. Reach out and touch the sky. Boy, you with me, don't wait for nights. Going baptized, yes, spirit baptized.
Hey, welcome back to I'm Going In. My name is Todd Blyleven, and I'm your host. And today I have yet another incredible guest, a friend, somebody that I've grown close to over the last year and gotten a chance to know. And it's just been an honor to meet this person, to be involved in his life. We're sharing music now that we're tampering with, which we'll get into in a little bit, but. Jeremy Fuller from Little Elm Fire Department. And Jeremy, thank you so much for being on I'm Going In. This show is all about the moment when we go in for ourselves, we go in for others in need, right? And then it's telling the journey of strength and resilience to get ourselves back up on our feet and learn how to walk with this trauma that we may have had, that we may have endured, or helping others learn how to walk tall for themselves. So, hey, give our audience a little brief rundown on who you are, your rank, how you got to where you're at in terms of just the timeline, and then I'd love to know why fire. Why did you get into the fire department? What kind of sparked that?
Todd, thanks for having me. Very honored to be on here with you, man. You're doing amazing stuff with all this, and very grateful that what you're doing for the first responder culture. My name's Jeremy Fuller. I'm a captain in administration at Little Elm Fire Department. So I've been in the fire service for 22 years, and naturally, it just kind of felt like what I was supposed to do, because really my entire family, almost every male in my family was a firefighter. My grandpa served 30-something years at Irving Fire Department. My dad did 30 years at Sherman Fire Department. So I pretty much, the two things I grew up in was baseball and firefighting. And, I had my first love of baseball, as very low percentages, as we know, works out for going pro. I decided to end that after playing Division I college. After I was happy enough to complete my fourth year of college baseball, and I decided that it's time for me to move on to what I knew I was going to do if baseball didn't work out.
Awesome.
And so
what position?
I was a pitcher. Yep, like you. Yeah. And
the pitcher is the best athlete, right? We're the best athlete. I'm the smartest. My dad taught me to play chess at an early age, and I think that's one thing that I really loved about pitching is all the little chess matches within the game, inside the game, and being in control of the game, and on the mound. And to be honest, like I loved pitching, but over the years being a pitcher, sometimes it would get a little bit boring watching so much baseball, And I love the excitement of running the game, but over the years, I think you can get some burnout from it. I can only imagine being a professional baseball player of the time you have to put in and spend on the road and away from your family and all those things. So I do think there's a lot of stress involved in professional sports, from that aspect. That's why I love, first of all, like, hats off to your grandpa and your dad. I mean, 60 total years of dedication to the firefighting community, to their community, to helping save lives, to just being that beacon of light. When you think of firefighters And and it's great. Like all first responders have they're all great. They all have their stuff. But when you see that red fire truck driving down the road and it's all shiny and silvered, I mean, it's just all polished up, right? There's just this kind of aura that follows you all the way through. Or when you see you guys at the grocery store and you're all walking together in all your blue or whatever uniforms you're wearing, there's this kind of pride, right? Like, oh, there's a firefighter. That's cool. There's this cool factor to what you do. But I know just from being around so many firefighters in my just growing up and playing sports, right? You're always hanging out with first responders because I think you have that same mentality of I want to go out and compete. I want to be able to be put into positions where I'm adapting, right? I want to be a part of a team, a unit. I want to succeed. I want to fail. I don't want to fail that much, but if I do fail, I'm going to fail with my brothers or sisters around me, right? So there's a lot of similarities to that first responder community in sports or military when it comes to like how you pack and how you walk around together. But when you see that fire truck running down the street, man, it's empowering. It's awesome to watch. When you were playing, you went through some injuries that kind of set you back, right? So, because I want the listeners to know, I mean, you were a damn good pitcher, and you played at an extremely high level, which is most of what all these young kids are trying to achieve, right? I mean, you've got kids now that are playing in your own house and trying to aspire to do what you did and play collegiate baseball. That's a huge feat for anyone, let alone get into pro ball. That's another piece. But to play college baseball is really a huge accomplishment. What happened with your injuries? And how did that kind of set you back and steer you into the firefighter, your go-to basically because you grew up with it. But what happened with that injury and how did that prepare you more mentally, I guess, and physically to become a firefighter? What was the correlation there?
Yeah, I wasn't born with the best body. I've had a lax ligament disease my whole life where my joints pop out of socket. So I frequently had my shoulder popping out of socket when I would have a quick comebacker. Whenever, like the more I worked out and trained, I would keep having tear issues, which when I was towards the end of my junior season in college, I tore my tricep in half. And I was having a really successful year. I was top at one point towards the end of the season. I was top 10 in the nation in wins, and which I still have a record there at the school for the most wins in the season. And then at the end of that season, that tricep tear, along with some of my joint dysfunctions, that just really hammered on me on my senior season, where my preparation, it took me longer to get back from after pitching a whole game or whatever, and I struggled a lot more. I struggled with stamina, and so my senior season, I have the record at the school still and losses in a season. So I hold two records there, most wins and most losses.
Wow.
But the endurance, I think mentally, that's what a lot of first responders can relate with when it comes to bad injuries on the job. It's a very physical job. And so I think my sports background helped me within training and being competitive in that aspect of knowing this is what I have to do to compete in this job. And so I had to train myself to a certain level to be able to do these things and be as best as I can be to where I could go into a fire and not have my guys worry that I'm going to get hurt and they're going to have to take me out or carry me out or put them in any danger, So the training level, it became, it opened up a whole new world for me of the seriousness of staying in shape and being in the best shape I could be for my citizens as well. So there's so many parts to that. Even on the mental health side of, I deal with first responders now that that get hurt and then they come into light duty, which I have 2 of them right now that I'm over here in the offices, and they're in rehab trying to get back on duty. And you could see the deflation, and they're deflated, man. They're burnt, they're down. It's hard to not get depressed on not doing what you love to do and be out in the community serving and being hands-on, that first person that shows up to be able to put your hands on somebody and help them and truly in some of their worst moments, to go from several months of rehab and sitting in the office pushing papers.
Yeah.
And so there is a huge mental aspect to being ready for that, and knowing that you'll be back. You just got to work hard and train through it and keep your head right. So I do deal with guys on that. I think there's so much to talk about in that area on how I think the sports world and injuries it can compare to first responders and going through injuries as well.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, first of all, you chose a position, so you must have you were probably not a very good hitter because you chose. Well, I wasn't either. I say I was. I mean, in my own mind, I was. Backyard wiffle ball, I was amazing. I can hit the ball a long way. Just don't throw anything spinning at me because I'm swinging and I'm missing. But you chose a position, though. When you really look at the physicality of what all those 9 players on that field are going through pitch by pitch, you chose the position to throw the ball every pitch, to have the most rigorous torque and everything else on your body, the force landing. When you bring that left leg up and you slam it down from a right-hander's perspective, and you're rotating as fast as you can, trying to throw with an arm behind you, trying to accelerate to get it out in front, throwing a ball as fast as you can, and then the recoil and the whip and the follow through and everything else, right? The deceleration, all these things I talk about all the time on the sports side. It's the toughest position. Catchers are tough. Don't get me wrong. Like sitting back there and taking all that abuse, it's tough. But to pitch, and then you add in what you had, or have, right? This disability of sorts, where your bones and you literally ripped your tricep in half and then came back. So you have fought through resilience probably your whole life, just trying to be the best you can be. God gave you the talent to play at the high level. Your body kept trying to get you to walk away, and in essence, you kept going in every time. You didn't back down. You persevered through all of your challenges, that's what I think sports allows us to do, right? It gives us these choices along our path to decide, is this too much for me at this time with my coping skills, where I'm at, who I am today? Can I persevere through this? Or is my safe bet, which isn't a bad thing, to take a step off the track a little bit and try to figure out what I can do in this moment in my life, right? To make sure I'm mentally sane. I think we get in trouble when we push through things that are not attainable, and mentally we don't have the coping skills to get through those things, which I think brings on the depression and the sadness and the overwhelming feeling of I'm not good enough, I'm never going to be able to achieve this. So now you fast forward to what you were talking about in the firefighting community. I mean, you guys are literally running upstairs, training, carrying those big old hoses and people and all these things. I mean, it's nonstop physically. So to the 2 guys or 2 firefighters that you're working with, you kind of almost have to do this coping skills test to see what's your resilience like? What have you persevered through in your life? Were you an athlete? Did you overcome challenges? What were those mentally? And then, okay, let's make sure that you're mentally focused, and you will get through this, but we need to like maybe sometimes teach that extra coping skill in that moment of chaos for them to help them understand how to get back out and get back to what they love because they just don't have it, right? How many firefighters, like in that case, because you deal with a lot, like, I mean, Jeremy, I love what you're doing, man. Your brother, like, you are on the front line when it comes to first responders and learning more about their mental well-being, which then creates this lion, this beast be that can be friends with the peaceful side of themselves. It creates this ultimate lion, right? I wrote this whole thing on this. It's called Beast and Peace. It's a poem that just kind of talks about how the beast side of us is always trying to achieve greatness, like you, right? Always trying to achieve this. And then sometimes you're getting so wrapped up or knocked down, like the two firefighters you're working with, like they're depressed. I got to push papers. I don't want to do this. I'm roaring. I'm in this. I'm caged. And then you have this peaceful side that's saying, relax, just breathe. You are that peaceful side. You're that peaceful voice. And that's what our first responder, our military community needs more of is men and women like you that provide that safety, right? That slow it down. I'm going to be that peaceful voice to you right now. Cage the animal a little bit, and then we're going to work together to get you back. And when you get back, man, you are going to be stronger than you've ever realized because you're going to know how to talk to both sides of your mental well-being, right? Going through everything you went through, like through sports, and then now you become this firefighter. How is that, the physicality and the mental part to being a firefighter, especially with you, what you've already endured, knowing like, hey, I've got this trauma that I'm pushing out in front of me with my strength deficiencies, my physicality piece. I got to always watch that. I'm always on the guard with it. How is that, just kind of on a day to day? How did you deal with that mentally?
Great question. That's, man, there was so many different waves that I went through early on in my career, with my dysfunctions and my little bit abnormalities of my body. To be honest, for years, I didn't share that with anybody. There was things that I hid from my coworkers in the fire service out of fear that I might not be accepted, or I could even be considered not able to do this job, So I hid a lot of that for many years, and I tried to just train through it. There was times where there was a couple of occasions where I was at work and my shoulder came out of socket, and somebody helped me. My partner helped me put it back in, and I asked them to not tell anybody. We can't let anybody know this. And I did. My shoulder came out of my left one was the one that was notorious for coming out of socket, but my knees, they do the same thing when I sit Indian style. My wrist would do it a lot. So I've had multiple surgeries now to prevent these, help prevent these things. But so that was pretty a mental battle, and I think I navigated through that, and I just kind of through sports. I've always had the mentality of I want to win, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to win. So I was able to beat some of those things by training and doing the right workouts for myself, and trying to keep my joints strong. And then early on in my career, I found a whole new level of mental battles, that I was faced with, and not having any kind of mental resources back then, 20 years ago. Things started happening pretty quick to where about 4 years into my fire service career, I started questioning, like, is this really what I want to do? Is this for me? Because things did get so hard, as I felt a little bit like a black cloud maybe, and there was just so many things happening. I was a part of a line of duty death when in Denison, which was the first paid place that I worked, and that was in somewhere around 2006, I believe. And a rookie that was just hired, who he came in, which rookie, he was a great rookie. He was coming in an hour and a half early, and he was ready to get to work. So he would start doing things, and he would tell me, "Hey, I'm good. You can leave." And so that morning I left, and as soon as I left, a fire came out, and he was actually with my crew, which on my crew, his dad was a driver of an engine. So
Wow.
So he was killed before I even got home, and his dad had to witness it.
Wow.
And so that was a rough one for me. I wore that on my shoulders, and I probably looked deeper into some of the things where I felt like all my peers now had something against me as far as the guys on my crews. And I just felt to me like things changed and they weren't talking to me or whatever. And I probably was just overthinking things, and probably had a lot of guilt of my own to deal with. And then, it still kind of hurts me on some of my decisions where I decided to not go to the funeral. I kind of reclused myself from a lot of things there. And then shortly after that, my partner, he kept telling me he was going to kill himself. And while we were on duty together several times, we worked at this 2-man station, and he would take loads of Benadryl, and there were several times that I would wake him up, smacking him in the face to go on an emergency call, and this guy was out on Benadryl. And we got pretty close over the years, but he had so many problems, and he would call me and tell me he was going to kill himself, and I had no resources, no knowledge of how to deal with those situations, and there was even a few times that he would call me in the middle of the night, and I was kind of brought up on, being tough and all that. And my dad's old fire service ways of just tough it out, and so at times I would even kind of get angry with him and be like, toughen up, man, let's go. It's time to work. We got this. Yeah. And so he finally killed himself from taking too many pills. And so that was a rough one for me. I think, for many years thinking I should have done something different. So that, and then one of my captains died shortly after that from a brain tumor, where he just started talking weird at work one day, and then a month later he was dead. And so wow. Like things were stacking up pretty quick, and not to mention the bad calls. We ran several bad calls up there in Denison that it just one thing after another. So I came, probably the thing that saved my career was I volunteered in Little Elm before we basically had any paid firefighters when we were that small. And as things were happening to me in Denison, and I had a lot of that stuff going on, I enrolled in nursing school with the hopes of getting out of the service. And I tested, so Little Elm started growing. They started hiring a bunch of us that had volunteered for years. And so I had taken the hiring test, and almost 2 years had went by. And that's when I had enrolled in nursing school, thinking I'm not going to get my dream job, which, I had still always desired to serve my hometown and the people that I know and grew up with, and to try to protect the people that I love. And I'll never forget where I was in the front yard when the director of public safety now, Chief Florentino, he called me and he said, "Hey, you want a job?" And I was just shocked because it had been like 2 years after taking the hiring test. And so I was like, "Hell yeah, man. Tell me where to be." And that saved my career and kind of rejuvenated me. I got brought into a place at the time that was kind of up and coming. It seemed like there was a lot more structure at the time within how the department was doing things. And we were, it was down here closer to the Metroplex where things were a little bit on pace with technology and everything that was going on. So I fell in love with the job pretty much all over again. But what I brought with me was kind of all those battles and pains that I had dealt with. And so what I started doing was trying to build a program here and try to help out in some way for what I knew these guys were going to go through. This was a younger department that was just starting and just up and coming, and a lot of young individuals. So, I mean, even after only being 5 years paid at a very busy department that went through a lot, I knew I was considered seasoned here, and so I just wanted to help and help others and try to help them not go through some of the things that I was going through. And I still went through a roller coaster of things even then. I think there was a lot of lessons I learned was helping others is therapeutic, but it's not therapy, So it took me a long time to learn that lesson.
The survivor symbol means so much to me as a mass shooting survivor. I wear my survivor phoenix with pride, representing strength and resilience. It reminds us that even when we feel knocked down, we're not alone. Together, we can rise stronger. A portion of the profits will support other survivors needing help. Get yours today at toddblyleven.com. Man, Jeremy, holy cow. First, you just shed light on pretty much everything that firefighters, our first responders, our combat veterans, people that go out and serve others and put their life on the line for somebody in a very tragic situation go through, right? And you've seen, unfortunately, that death. You've heard the screams, you've heard the horribleness of that, what that job it creates. It's what you're supposed to be in. You're supposed to live in that chaos, to be the angels that come in, the guiding light to help pull people out of chaos. And we forget a lot of how you, as a first responder, diving into the chaos and being the heroes that you all are in that given moment, we forget that the aftermath and what it does to you. And for you, we were, raised in that same kind of timeline, like, get over it. It's a, no blood, no foul mentality. The sun's going to come up tomorrow. You're not the only one that deals with this, right? And so all these different things that you go on through your head that you've been raised on, which that's how they were raised. My dad's a tough man, but he has a very soft side to him, right? And it's taken a long time for him to kind of let that out because he was in that beast mode for so long. His dad before him, molasses truck driver, came overseas from another country, brought his family in, had to be tough. His brothers, same thing with your family, right? And then you learn through this that you can't deal with this. And so even in the moment when you lost your, that young firefighter, that wasn't your fault. It was just God's will, right? At that time. But you had all this weight on you because have you ever felt that before? No. how are you supposed to cope through that type of loss when you've never ever even come close to experiencing anything like that in terms of the guilt that you're feeling? And so it wasn't anything out of the ordinary in 2024 for someone to say, oh, you were probably feeling really guilty, and that's why you didn't go to the funeral, and that's why you were feeling these things, because we have more resources now today where people are hearing more stories about this, and they're learning that that was actually probably a good thing that you didn't go, right? Because you needed that time to yourself. You needed to figure out the resilience piece. You need to stack up all that coping mechanism and learn how to like get through this moment and stay alive. You're in self-preservation, right? And then the other piece too, like that all the different the loss of your captain, and then the friend saying, hey, I want to kill myself. Like, what are you supposed to do? You can't handcuff yourself to them and sleep with them. You can only try to be a guiding friend, and that's what you were, so you tried to be that light for him, and unfortunately it was just too much on him. And now, like, I think the most glorious part to all of this in this story is that you were wanting to give up on your dream, not because you didn't love it, but I think we were talking about it before, like you're at this choice moment, and like you don't have the coping skills, and you already lost a friend. You've already seen what that type of level of stress can do. You didn't want to do that to yourself. You didn't want to be in a position where you're not being the Jeremy Fuller that everybody loves, right? So you took a left-hand turn to try to go into a field that you thought, I'm still going to love, I'm still going to be able to serve, I'm going to be able to help people, but I can't go right. And then all of a sudden, this moment happens at the right time in the right time in your life when they say you got a job in a new environment, right? I mean, I have a hard time going back to Las Vegas. That's my moment of terror, right? For me, that's my trigger stuff. Not that I've been back twice now, both work related, or well, one was a remembrance, the other one was work. I still have a hard time, like, I bet if I went today, I'd have a hard time kind of going down on the south side of the strip, right? By myself, anyways. I'd still feel all that anxiety flying in. That's the same thing, but you all of a sudden got this new breath, this new like opportunity to put a new uniform on. And then the really cool part is that you started writing down and processing your path to staying tall for yourself, to bowing your chest up, to learning how to fight through this trauma. And I always talk about and I want to give it back to you, but I always talk about when we have trauma in our life, the worst thing we could possibly do is stick it back right behind us or set it on our shoulder, right? Because it's just going to keep kicking us in the back of the head. It's going to keep yelling at us. It's going to make us irritable. So the best thing we can do is start to learn how we can live with this trauma and push it out in front of us like a sphere, right? And it's floating out here. I know it's there. I'm never going to get rid of that. Like, it's locked up in a box. It's there. I can see it. But as it starts to come back on me now, everything that I've done in my life to learn how to be resilient, to learn how to walk with it, to identify when I get into a situation, I go into a crowded place or whatever, and I can feel that anxiety. I can feel my breath kind of getting a little short. I start to stutter my speech. That's my trauma, everything that I've learned coming back on me. So what coping skills have I learned from Captain Fuller to help me? Okay, hold on. I gotta slow down. I'm gonna go to the bathroom really quick. I'm gonna get into a controlled environment, slow down, it's quiet. Maybe there's some soft music going on. I'm gonna wash my hands. I'm gonna work on my breathing. Okay, I'm back. All right, I'm sound again. Now I'm gonna re-enter that. Now my trauma's back out here again. And now I'm going to put myself in another position. Maybe I was sitting with my back up against the door. Maybe I need to turn around so I can see the front of the door like a lot of first responders do. I know I do it all the time. But I changed my environment to where now I can live with this. And that's what that's the biggest piece I think I got out of your story was you dealt with all this stuff, and then all of a sudden, like, I think there's a purpose. God wanted you to be able to like figure all this out and put a curriculum together of sorts to then, because he realizes that, and you realize that these young firefighters, they can't do all this. You don't want them doing this. You don't want them feeling the way you feel. So you become this like guiding light, this father figure, this, not that you're like an old guy, but I think that's awesome, man, because that's what we're starting to see, this movement in the first responder world, is people like you that have organically just thought, I need to do something. And you did it. And so I'm so honored to just know you and to call you a friend. And man, it's so cool. So like, talk to us about now, where you're at with things and what you're currently doing at Little Elm Fire Department, and how that's transcending into like other fire departments in the state of Texas and maybe nationally.
Man, that's well, I think with what you just said about God's plan, really, that's kind of how it was presented to me. And I've been in Little Elm, hired now here for 16 years, 16 plus years, and I spent about more than 10 of it trying to find. I went to some training that involved critical incident stress management, and we worked with the chaplain for years, which was kind of the basis of our peer support team. And then everything I was trying to do with that just seemed, I call it a failure. I mean, maybe there was stuff we were doing in a background, but I felt like we could do so much more, because nobody was really doing anything for that program, or to make it a true program, or build up on it, or even spend money in that area for our mental health. And so, for a long time, I considered that I was failing in that area, and I was kind of always casually on the search for something better. And my mom created the horse therapy thing for first responders. So nonprofit called Our Watch, with my mom coming from her dad being a first responder for a long time. And then she was married to one. And then me and my brother became one. And
your brother became a firefighter too.
He worked for 10 years in Frisco.
Wow.
And we all live on the same block there on the lake over here in Little Elm. And so she's well aware of the things that we've gone through, and the way we act, and the way we do certain things, and how we cope and whatnot. And so she loves horses, and she saw the need to create this thing. And it's a pretty awesome deal. She asked me to be on the board with it, as she saw that I had a passion in doing something for that kind of stuff for our people. And so I was out at the ranch just feeding the horses and grooming. One day we were all just basically hanging out there, and this lady, Heather Twaddell, we call her Dr. T, she had come from California, and she's from a first responder family, which her dad did 30 plus years at LA County Sheriff's Office. And as she got her doctorate and got into forensic psychology and counseling, she became one of 12 therapists at LA County Sheriff's Office. So she, over in California, she was working in that field. And they being a larger department, and LA County as a place that has gone through a lot of things, they were a little bit ahead of the game of having something set up for their people. So she came after her dad retired. Her mom was a nurse. Her brother was a police officer. The entire family uprooted and decided to come to Texas. And her brother got a job at McKinney Police, and her mom retired from nursing. And Dr. T just started doing counseling in the civilian population just to get her feet on the ground with a job here in Texas. And then she caught wind of our watch, and she started volunteering for the program. So she's out there at the ranch. We're just all mingling and chatting, and I could tell that she was talking about things differently, and it got my curiosity. And this is where I think the plan, God's plan, somehow linked her and I together. And I always call her our angel, because she just popped in out of the blue, and I noticed that she was talking different about things. And I asked if we could meet and talk about what we were, some visions I had for our department of something different. And so we started meeting regularly for lunch and going over a plan. And she kind of listened to some of my stories and my visions and ambitions, and her geniusness just started flowing with putting a plan together of what a first responder program needs to look like, which was she definitely ahead of her time with what she came up with, this comprehensive approach to with mental and physical well-being being intertwined, and then also involving our spouses. So, that's one thing. As I started listening to some of the things she was saying, I knew it was different. I knew the guys would listen to this. It was, she talked a lot about the science of the body and what stress does to us and everything. And so what I saw quickly is that I tried to go home and communicate some of that stuff to my wife of what I was hearing. And then I was like, okay, there's the problem, is we're not very good at communication and communicating these messages in our homes. So we quickly saw the need that this program needed to be family wide and involve the families in the therapy, the workshops, the classes. And so she, within that process, she ended up helping write our proposal to council. And so our police department started catching wind of what we were fixing to do, and they asked to jump on board. We had a line of duty in 2017 that involved one of our police officers in a shooting out in the street. And so we had that to our side because that affected our whole town, and everybody knew what we were all going through with that loss of a 20-year officer that we all love dearly. And so I think with that proposal, she helped us write, and what we have been going through, council approved it without any questions, and we were able to get funding for the program. And that's what we've been basing our entire mental and physical health program off of, is everything that she was doing. So for that first year, we had Dr. T contracted as our psychologist, and it was just her. Within turn of that, fire department's a small world, especially in this area. And other guys started kind of hearing what we were doing. I would get some phone calls from other agencies saying they had somebody that needed help. Can I help them? I was like, yeah, actually, I have a resource now, that's working really great. So we started getting Dr. T into some of these other agencies. And I mean, within a year, stuff started blowing up to where she had to create FIRST, which stands for First Responder Stress and Trauma, and which she quickly found that she could not provide for all of us by herself. And so she started having to train other counselors and create a staff. And she, which grew quickly to where now we're at 40 plus counselors working for FIRST. And then they got about 60, I think, on staff total.
Wow.
They're serving pretty much all of Texas, parts of Oklahoma, and starting to get into California now. And I'm super fortunate. I've had administration here with my chief, who's also a friend of yours, and
Chief Russ.
Yeah, Chief Russ, man,
He's
I get a
amazing.
lot of support, man. He is amazing. He gives me ownership in the program. I'm in control of the account and how to spend the money and the best ways I think to spend the money within the program. So he's supported me when I've spent money on other agencies that didn't have a program, and been approached from other departments where I feel like that's our duty, as we have the benefit. We're so fortunate here in Little Elm to have that support where others don't. I think the fire service, anybody in the public safety, deserves the opportunity to get help within this program. So things have kind of grown to where, man, even now, First has gotten so popular and good at what they do. This last week, my town manager and HR department and some other people in our town wanted to meet with me and propose the idea if I could talk to Dr. T and get her to serve our entire town's employees with their program. And so I talked to Dr. T right after the meeting, and she said, absolutely, we'll do it. It's 350 total employees. And so that's where we're at now, as serving so many people, even beyond first responders. And so,
What's so amazing? So amazing is you decided to go in for yourself in a moment of chaos, to ground yourself, to figure things out. Somebody decided to come in for you, right? And give you the opportunity to start fresh. Your mom decides to go in to help not only her sons, but those that are all firefighters, because of her being around that chaos, right? She goes in. Dr. T has gone in because of what she saw, right? Everybody's going in to try to help based on the trauma that we've either seen someone that we love go through, or we've experienced on our own. All of a sudden, there's this meeting of the minds. There's this need, and you decide, let's do this. So now you're going to go in and take this risk and be the brave person in a community where tough is like written across the walls. Get over it. Sun's coming out tomorrow. You don't need help. Deal with it all on your own. And you went against it, and you broke through the ice. You stood up there. You planted the flag. Dr. T joined you. All these different people. Chief Russ, the mayor. I know Curtis Cornelius up there in Little Elm's doing an amazing job. The funding, the council, like all these different people. And I don't know if he was there before, but all these people are rallying up, and now they're like, okay, we see it. We didn't see the light before, right? We didn't see the flag planted in the ground saying, man, I need help. Let's go. Then it overflows into other agencies because they're like, hey, wait a second. Like, these guys do what we do. They're getting help. Why aren't we getting help? I need help. And now you just created this whole thing, and now you got a whole city wanting to get on this, and it's just overflowing, man. Such a Cinderella story. It's so cool. It's such a cool story.
I think it's pretty cool. Yeah. I'm pretty proud of all of it, man. And really of my people for accepting it. Like, along with Chief Russ and what he does, and our assistant chief, Chief Porter, them two together have helped to breed an amazing culture like no other. I've never seen an overall culture like we have here at Little Elm. And, the mental health program and Dr. T's help and all that has helped to turn that to where we have a large group of healthy individuals that are taking care of themselves and using the program. And I spend I spend the budget down every year down to zero, and sometimes have to ask for more money because everybody's using it, and so I'm definitely proud of our individuals for accepting the culture and buying in on this with me. And I mean, even it's spreading so fast. I think it's even, Dr. T's gotten so popular that she's now the sports psychologist for the Dallas Cowboys.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so, I mean, she's just an angel within everything that she does. She's very good at it, and she's passionate. It's obvious that she cares. Her whole family is involved in the program. She's created a family out of the whole deal. Just this last Friday, we did a our watch workshop with the horses with the entire first team, and so we had all the counselors and everybody out with the horses and kind of focused on their health. And she's doing great things, man, and it's expensive stuff to get the kind of help that you need and that works, and so it's so good to see that we have, and going into that with the expense of things, for any good counselor, it could cost up to $150 an hour to get that kind of therapy. And we've navigated so many different ways to provide that through making first their own EAP, to getting them under different EAP programs. They take all the major insurances, and then the programs out there that have donated to First to help with the children's advocacy, and the SISI officer donates. It's a foundation that's mainly Dallas PD guys. They donate tons of money, and so there's all these ways now. And Dr. T created a side nonprofit for First called First Foundation, and our logo is the buffalo. And so it basically, buffaloes run towards the storm, and most animals run away from the storm. So I think that's pretty interesting. She's asked me to be on the board for that. What we're responsible for is trying to do different charities and things, seek out donations to raise money for the groups that can't pay for those kinds of services, and help out other agencies as well. So
that's amazing. I mean, I know as you're talking, and the podcast launch, there's going to be links and all kinds of things that'll go out in our newsletter to please give. If it's $5, if it's $10, we want to try to provide a donation type platform to just try to bring more dollars, because you need funding in order to provide the services that you've had. And I know firsthand, and I know we're getting ready to wrap up, but you invited me out to go tour your firehouse in Little Elm, and it was so awesome. I wanted to slide down the pole. I wanted to jump on the fire truck. But the coolest part about that whole experience, I mean, not only being able to see where y'all live, right? And because that's your home away from home, the camaraderie you have. But I thought one of the coolest things was, as we were walking around and you were introducing me to some of the other firefighters that were there, we had a conversation with one in particular person. And there we are. I think there was 5 of us standing in this hallway, all big, strong, tough guys, right? And we start talking about mental health and an incident that happened, and we start sharing stories of similarity and resilience. And it was so open. It was so vulnerable. Everybody was just there. You could feel like there is nothing you can't say to each other. And there's nothing that any of us had to prove to each other to say, well, I deserve to be in this, because you've all seen it, right? And I thought that was the most magical part, and just a pure testimony of everything that you're doing and everything that Dr. T is doing, and every other person across our world and our society that is taking the step forward to help somebody in need, right? It's allowing those conversations to happen that we all need to be able to talk about. to know that we're not alone in this fight. We got our brothers, we got our sisters. You don't have to be a firefighter. You don't have to be a combat vet. You don't have to go through extreme trauma. You could just be dealing with trauma that is extreme to you in whatever situation that is. But it's important to know that there are resources out there like what you put together outside of first responder space, in first responder space, that you can get help. And it's okay, and it's absolutely strong to raise your hand and ask for help. So I thought your whole firehouse, you could feel, it felt like I was in a championship locker room playing that same camaraderie from a sports perspective that you guys put together there at Little Elm Fire Department. Jeremy, if other first responders are listening to this and they're like, man, that sounds cool. I know we're going to put up some resources for them to reach out, but is there like a national curriculum that might be being built, something that gets people from California to Washington to New York to wherever, that they're like, how do I start this? So do you have something like that, kind of a how to get started page, a contact page? What would you suggest?
Man, I've done a lot of that for mainly this area. That's kind of how it spread. And I have such a passion in getting, and I believe in what we've done here and that it works, and seeing it firsthand, that I've always felt like other agencies, the whole service industry everybody deserves to have an out or an opportunity at getting good help, right? Even non-first responders. I mean, everybody needs a good resources. I think that's what it's all about. Even as public servants, it's our duty to serve the public in any way, even with mental health. Dr. T and I have done a lot of meetings with other agencies, and we'll meet with their heads. We'll meet with whoever it takes. So I know we've had several meetings with other agencies across Texas where we will sit with the HR and town manager and the fire chief and the police chief all together and present what we're doing with all of this. And so, I'm very open to sharing my own contacts. If you want me to tell my phone number or email, there's the first, it's F and the number 1 and rst.org is the website where you can reach out to them as well. What we've found successful, as a group and really believing in this is me going with her to help present the program, as in kind of I'm the proof of the pudding kind of thing of, it's not just her out there trying to sell her product. I go with her so I can tell the staff, this is what we've done. It's working. This is how you get the budget for it. These are the policies we're using. It's a non-punitive program, and so the other agencies out there that are interested, they don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's all right here. We've done it successfully, because there's so many different stigmas that's hard for other agencies to start stuff like this, as far as, and that's a lot what we do education wise in the conference is I speak on a panel that we talk about different barriers. What's all the barriers that departments face when they're trying to do stuff like this for their people. And it's getting the buy-in from the old salty dogs. It's getting the funding for it. It's getting their bosses to believe in this is how we need to do it. What does the policies need to say? And getting past that whole stigma of I can't say anything because I'm going to get fired. And what does all this look like? What if they know that I'm not okay right now? So it's all very doable, and I love trying to. I kind of consider that, that old chess match challenge that we talked about. I like winning, and that's a win to me if I can go and speak to another agency and they can get what we have that I know works for them.
Well, it's like you said, it's trying to figure out how we can get people to be just whole again. And if you're an athlete, which you were or are, I don't think we ever really stopped being an athlete. But when you were injured, you went through rehab. On that junior year, when you tore that tricep in half, you went through rehab to try to get yourself back to play again at a level where you're happy and you can compete and you're strong and you're having fun, right? You go through all that. You go through the challenge, the rigorous training, all that. When we're hurt on the inside, we need to go through rehab too. We need to be able to do that, because if we don't do that, then we're never going to be able to be the strong person that we are today, and we can't be our own lion, right? We can't roar. We can't tackle tough things. We want our first responders to be lions that know the piece, that you're already out there serving. We already know the lion's a good lion, right? But you can't be that if you're hurt on the inside. And you guys are providing that opportunity. So these salty dogs, all the different people that need to make these decisions, it's not a weak thing, everyone. You're reinvigorating the lions that you hired to be the lions again. So you need this. They need that, right? So awesome.
I forgot, a part of the success I forgot to bring up when it comes to buy-in and getting these guys to use the program and everything. I think one of the key pieces to the way that we've built the program is that we call it culturally competent. So all of the counselors in the program come from the background. There's former police officers, former firefighters, there's spouses that are married to first responders, the dispatchers, there's and so that breaks that one barrier of trust, right? Like I'm talking to people, these are my people, they understand.
100%. You need to talk to a therapist that has relatable experiences, or you can get past the 8 seconds of your craziness with them and feel comfortable, because it's never going to work. So the cultural competence and everything that you guys are bringing, so important. I mean, you're just checking all the boxes, and it's working. Because I'm telling you, man, when you walk through that firehouse, it literally is feeling. I felt like I was back in the locker room again and palling around, and there's no secrets in a really good locker room. Right. Sometimes you wish there were. But,
awesome.
Oh man, Jeremy, thank you so much for being on I'm Going In. I think I'd love to just end it with we have something else in common where we've been writing songs, and you shared something with me prior to the show that I thought was just absolutely amazing. I hope you can kind of bring that a little bit more to life, and love to. I know we were talking about a project maybe to work together and share this with first responder communities to help maybe raise funds for FIRST. But your songwriting, I thought, God, it was moving. I know you said a lot of people don't know that about you, but they should, because it was ultra creative. So thank you for sharing that with me.
Thanks for listening. How would do you want me to share my contact on here, or like a phone number?
I'm gonna run this as the podcast is going. Everyone's already probably seen a lot of things, and then for all our listeners, it'll be in the captions. So if you open up that caption, we'll be able to find it, and then on the newsletter that goes out, we'll have all that info in there too. So,
awesome.
Man,
thanks for listening to the song, man. I look forward to doing some stuff with you there, and I like the idea of the album. We need to do something there.
That would be cool. So, thank you. As we wrap up, thank you so much again for being on Going In. Thanks for going in for yourself. Thanks for going in for others, and just continue to do it, brother, because you're changing things in such a positive way.
Thanks, man. I'm honored to be on here and be able to do this to help others. Look forward. We need to schedule lunch, man.
There you go. Lunchtime. That's where the magic happens.
Yep.